Welcome to AMM 1080 explanation of Project 1. Wanted just to go over briefly so we're all on the same page. Turns out I think a lot of you haven't looked at the handouts. Let's go over or don't understand the handout. So let's make sure you're on this right page here. So you've selected your culture, you've done all the research on it. So you're going to be presenting to the class the information based off your research. Okay, so based on your culture that you picked, you're supposed to be answering questions from these question groups. So you have three main categories. Social class / economics is category 1, government, and religion and holidays. What you're going to do is you're going to take and answer one question from question group 1, one question from question group 2, one from group 3, one from group 4. That's 4 questions. And then you're going to answer 2 more questions from any of these categories or these groups. Okay. So a total of 6 questions are going to be answered. Now, some of them are linked, right? They're related. So that's why they're going to be joint in that regard, but you have to answer the individual questions. So you're going to have 6 questions per category. So 6 questions from social class economics. You're going to answer 6 questions from government, 6 questions from religion / holidays. Okay. You're going to put them in slides and you're going to do it in order. So you have your title slide. It should have your name, your culture, the class, then your team number, and then you're going to have social class economics. And then you're going to have your answers from question 1, 2, 3, 4, and the additional question. Now, if the additional question is really closely linked to one of these, you can include it in that part. That's fine. You just need to make sure you reference and you answer the 6 questions. Whatever 6 questions you pick, you have to answer them. So you can have multiple questions per slide, obviously. That's fine, especially if it makes sense to have it there. If you want 1 slide per thing, that's fine. You're going through 18 slides as long as you can go through them very quickly. The last slide will be your works cited references page, okay? So that's going to be your last slide, and you can do a thank you for listening slide. Then what happens is you're going to, again, out of those 3 categories, you're going to present, and you have 12 minutes. I originally said 10. You have 12 minutes. Day 1, there's only 4 teams, but the other 2 days you have 5 teams. So you're really limited on time. That gives you an average 2 questions per minute. You have about a little more than that, slightly more than that, but about a minute and a half for 2 questions. So you don't have a whole lot of free time. So you don't have time to go, and think about it and pause and get lost. You don't have time for that. You just have enough time to get through the information. So just to give you an example, social class and economics, and you'll have, I just did for this first section. So you can have your culture in larger letters, have your names, and then go into social class and economics. That's the first category. And then you're going to show your visuals and see they're talking, question group 1 is talking about social class, where their classes, here they are. They went right into, they explained, yes, there are social classes. It's very strict, or it's very this, or it's not that. And in the slide, it just starts listing the different type of classes. Question 2 from that first set talks about body modification. So it talks about body modification. So you show pictures, you give the information, you go in that order. Okay, so once you're done, at the very end, this is just an abbreviated version, but show your references at the very end of all your slides. Okay, so that's part 1. Okay, and there is a rubric that has been attached to your handout. So it looks like this. So this is what it looks like. You have organization, professionalism, followed instructions, content, and presentation. Okay, so take a look at that. And you have part 2. Okay, so part 2, and some of you kind of missed this. Some of you didn't know there was a part 2. I'm not sure why, because I went over it. But there is a part 2, because if you notice, it's 50 points total, and you have 35 points for the first part. I was wondering why you weren't wondering where those 15 points were coming from. It's from part 2, where you actually interview one of your team members. So everyone gets interviewed by somebody in their team and talks about and reference their family's rules, customs, expectations, traditions, and ceremonies. So there's a rubric for that. So that's out of 15 points. So what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and do about a half page. That's what you're prompted. And this is an example. So project 1, part 2 interview. So each one gets interviewed, put them in bold, put a heading with your names, put it in bold, interviewed by who interviewed that person, and start going into the information. Now see here, clearly they're not proofreading. Make sure that you proofread. But you have each member being represented here on the team, and they have their responses. Okay, so put it all together in one document. Each one does types up their own document, but then you put it all together in one. Okay, and that's what you're going to post on the morning of your presentation, no later than 10 a.m. I'm going to post that under announcements. No later than 10 a.m. I want your PowerPoint as well as your part 2 posted. So it's already posted, it's on there. I can pick it up and grade it, and then I'll input the score for each team. Okay, so that's how it's going to work. So remember, there's 2 parts. Part 1 is 35 points, which is your research and your oral presentation. Part 2 is the interview. Okay, so that's what the handout pretty much goes over. It does say see rubric, and I'm showing you the rubric here. So make sure that you view that. Don't worry about printing out a rubric since you're turning everything digital. I'm going to go ahead and print out a rubric, and those will be passed out the following week. Okay, so teams 1, 2, 3, and 4 go on Wednesday of week 12, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 go the following Monday of week 13, and then 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 go on Wednesday of week 13. Okay, so we don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to be there early, so you need to make sure one of your team members is there. Pull it up. If no one does it, I'm going to go into discussion board and pull it up and have it ready to go. We have absolutely very little time in between, so as soon as you're done speaking, you exit off, you close out your presentation, and the next team needs to come up. Okay, so we don't have time to, fumble and start looking for slides or forgetting your Google sign up. You need to have it ready to go. Okay, it's the only way we're going to be able to go through all the groups. Okay, so again, 12 minutes. I will give you a sign. I'll wave my arm when you have 1 minute to go. Okay, when you have 1 minute. And after that, if I have to cut you off because you still keep going way past the 1 minute, I'll have to do that. Okay, because we need to make sure everybody gets to present. Okay. I will be closing the door, so please do not walk in during a presentation. You're going to have to wait until a group's done before you walk in. Please do not walk in during a presentation. Okay, I'm asking, I'm begging. Okay, so again, if you have any questions, please let me know, but it's under assignments, the rubric, the handout, and where you turn it in, it's going to be discussion board. You're actually going to go ahead and project 1 slide submission, and right underneath that, I'm posting a part 2 submission. Okay. All right. Thanks for listening.